The story you're about to hear isn't gentle. Not because it accuses, but because it unsettles. For years, the world believed certain chapters were closed. Headlines moved on, names were archived, trials ended, and silence settled in. But silence doesn't always mean the truth disappeared. Sometimes it means the story has learned how to wait. This is not a story about crimes. It's a story about rumors, about how they're born, how they're protected, and how they attach themselves to people who rise too fast, change too much, or speak too carefully. For years, there have been whispers about images, photos no one can produce, yet many claim to remember, files that supposedly vanished the moment someone went looking for them, stories framed in the same haunting language every time. They were erased, they were locked, they were never meant to be seen. And the name most often pulled into these whispers is Meghan Markle. Not as a duchess, not as a royal, but as a figure from an earlier chapter, before titles, before global scrutiny, before every movement carried consequence. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Rumors don't need evidence to survive. They need structure. The structure always starts the same way. First, a claim of existence. These images were real. Then, denial of access. You can't find them anymore. Then, power. Institutions made sure of that. And finally, urgency. They're resurfacing now. That last part is the hook, because when people believe something forbidden has slipped back into the light, they stop asking whether it's real and start asking why it was hidden. But real evidence doesn't behave this way. Authentic photographs leave trails, metadata, credits, agencies, original uploads, dates. Rumors leave impressions. Someone swears they saw it, someone remembers a post, someone insists it vanished. Memory replaces verification. And when the subject is Meghan Markle, a figure already surrounded by polarizing narratives, those impressions harden into belief. Why Meghan? Because she occupies a rare position in modern culture. She didn't just become famous, she transformed. Actress to duchess, outsider to institution. And when someone's identity changes that dramatically, people instinctively look backward. They search for a before that explains the after. That's where rumor thrives. Silence adds fuel. Meghan is known for choosing when to speak and when not to. To her supporters, that's restraint. To critics, it's strategy. To the internet, it's a blank screen onto which any story can be projected. When a public figure doesn't respond to a rumor, people don't assume dignity. They assume fear, or control, or guilt, even when none of that is proven. This is how speculation becomes narrative. Over time, rumors grow bolder. They begin borrowing the gravity of real scandals, not because there's proof of connection, but because proximity to controversy feels convincing. Names from documented cases are mentioned, not to accuse, but to imply. An implication is harder to refute than accusation because it never fully commits. People say, "No one's saying she did anything," but they keep repeating the association. That repetition is everything. Eventually, sources appear, anonymous voices who claim proximity, not documents, not records, atmosphere. They describe elite rooms, private gatherings, powerful people moving without scrutiny. These descriptions feel cinematic, and that's why they work. They allow viewers to imagine a world where everything is connected. But here's the part rarely discussed. Elite spaces exist. Networking exists. Private clubs exist. Wealthy people share environments. None of that is evidence of wrongdoing, yet once rumor takes hold, context disappears. A party becomes a plot, a membership becomes a gateway, a friendship becomes a secret alliance. And suddenly, the story isn't about facts, it's about narrative hunger. people want to believe there's more, something hidden, something erased, because believing you've uncovered a secret feels powerful. It feels participatory. You're not just watching history, you're decoding it. That's why these rumors don't fade, they mutate. They return every few years with new captions, new screenshots, new "someone said" moments, not because new evidence emerged, but because the structure still works. And once a rumor reaches this stage, debunking doesn't kill it, because it isn't sustained by truth, it's sustained by suspicion. This is the moment where many stories would accuse, but that's not where the real danger lies. The real danger is what happens next, when rumor stops being entertainment and starts reshaping how people interpret reality itself. Because once the idea of a hidden past settles in, everything becomes suspect. Old photos, old travel, old silence, everything is reread through a darker lens. Every viral scandal without proof follows the same blueprint. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Step 1. Suggestion without confirmation. This existed. This was real. No one can show it now. Step 2. Authority by implication. Institutions blocked it. Archives locked it. Agencies restricted access. Step 3. Moral framing. If this were true, everything would change. If this came out, history would be rewritten. Notice what's missing. Verification. This blueprint doesn't rely on evidence, it relies on psychology. Humans are wired to distrust power, so when a story suggests powerful systems are hiding something, skepticism toward the system replaces skepticism toward the claim. The absence of proof becomes proof of suppression. And when the subject is a royal adjacent figure, the effect multiplies. Monarchies are secretive by nature, so any silence feels deliberate, any gap feels intentional. But here's the reality most people don't understand. Archives restrict content for boring reasons: licensing agreements, rights disputes, privacy concerns, unprocessed collections. None of these are conspiracies. Yet, in the rumor ecosystem, every restriction becomes sinister. Add the modern internet to the mix, and the problem accelerates. Today, it takes minutes to miscaption an image, seconds to remove metadata. AI can generate convincing fakes. Old photos of unrelated people can be recycled with new names. Once shared enough times, the image becomes something people remember seeing. Memory replaces source. And when platforms remove false content, as they should, rumor accounts spin removal as censorship. They don't want you to see this. The deletion becomes part of the myth. This is how false narratives protect themselves. They turn correction into confirmation. Now, consider silence again. Public figures are often advised not to respond to baseless claims because responding amplifies them. But online audiences interpret silence emotionally, not strategically. Silence becomes suspicious. It feels like a tell. In truth, silence usually means this isn't worth legitimizing. But in the rumor economy, silence is rebranded as guilt. This is why these stories cling to Meghan Markle, not because of proof, but because of perception. Her rise was fast, her transformation was dramatic, her relationship with institutions is strained, her relationship with the press is hostile. All of that creates fertile ground for reinterpretation. And once a narrative forms, people stop asking, "Is this true?" They start asking, "Why don't we know more?" That's a subtle but dangerous shift. Because at that point, the burden of proof flips. The subject is expected to disprove a rumor that was never proven to begin with. And that's how reputations erode without evidence. This isn't unique to Meghan. It happens to politicians, activists, tech founders, artists, anyone whose power or visibility grows quickly. The internet doesn't just document success, it resists it. So what happens next? More files will be claimed, more images will be rumored, more sources will appear. Not because new facts emerged, but because the format keeps people watching. And the scariest part isn't that people believe these stories, it's that they feel true even when they aren't. Because once a wall of suspicion starts to crack, it doesn't break in silence. It breaks in fragments. Screenshots, clips, reposts, half-remembered claims. And by the time anyone asks for proof, the story has already done its damage. That's why the most responsible and powerful way to tell this story isn't to accuse, it's to expose the machinery behind accusation itself. Because the real lesson here isn't about a hidden photo, it's about how easily a hidden photo can be invented. And once you understand that, you realize the most dangerous thing in the digital age isn't secrecy, it's belief without evidence.